The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers.
At this pivotal time of humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology through experiment and experience our power to create and manifest.
Hey everybody, it's the Collective Imagination Show. Lisa's on her way. She's experiencing a few technical difficulties, but she'll be with us shortly. We just didn't want to keep you waiting any longer. Now, I was really curious because last week we ended with our affirmation or whatever you want to call it. And last week's was, there are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me with ease and grace. And I'm just curious, before Lisa and I begin sharing some of our stories, did you guys have any experiences that you wanted to share? And I'll leave it to Biggie to let me know if there's anyone in chat who's got anything to say. I had a shitload of stuff happen to me, but I always do, and I get tired of hearing my own voice. So surely some of you guys had some really interesting things that went along with our affirmation last week. While I'm waiting to see if anyone's writing anything in chat, let me just tell you about a couple of things that happened with me last week. For those who watched the show, you would have heard me talking about me getting a phone call once. I was watching the YouTube version of Hotel California. I was listening to the lyrics over and over again because I was finding that the lyrics were actually revealing a kind of cool, almost like a gateway experience, because the lyrics actually parallel the experience that these guys had when they went to Morocco for the first time when Heather invited them in May of 2013, and then throughout that whole period through December of 2014. And I was listening to it just to make sure that I wasn't investing my own expressions or need to want to make something fit. So I listened to it one time, two times, three times, and I got this eerie feeling, and I said, ooh, gosh, I feel like I'm remembering. I feel like I'm beginning to remember. And I said it aloud too. And as I said that aloud, my phone rang. And as I said during last week's show, I don't pick up the phone when I don't recognize the number. But I did that day because I was expecting an old friend to call. And I thought maybe she was calling early because something happened. And since I didn't recognize the number, I thought I'd better answer it. And it was a recording. And the recording said, let the memories begin. You have been selected. And I hung up at that point, knowing it was a solicitation. But as I knee-jerk hung up, I realized what had just been said. I just said aloud, oh my gosh, I think I'm remembering. And then the phone rings and says to me, let the memories begin. You've been selected. And the cool thing that happened this last week, which goes along with our affirmation, which again is, there are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know now will be revealed to me with ease and grace. So my phone rang the very next day here where I am in Arizona. And I answer most of the phone calls here, even though 90% of those are solicitations, because I want to make sure that I catch every phone call for the homeowners here. So the phone rang and I picked it up, and sure enough, I got the same message. Let the memories begin. You have been selected, and it's a Disney ad. But I hung it up and I laughed when it happened. Let me see if I can share this with you. It'll just take me 1 second to find it. So I do have it open. And let's see if I can. It's a picture that I took of the phone when that happened, so that you can see the phone number that called me and the time and everything. Okay, so I've got that. I just need to get over to Zoom and share my screen. Here we go. So you all should be seeing this picture of a wireless phone here, this AT&T phone. So on 9/4 at 9:22 a.m., this phone number called me. And when I called it back, it said it wasn't in service. But this phone number called me and said, let the memories begin. You have been selected. So not only did I get my words brought back to me that I had talked about during last week's show, but I also had felt like that was a response to our affirmations, which again is there. Last week's was, there are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me with ease and grace. Because again, it's, to me, that's revealing to me that there's more, that there are things we don't understand, that, you know, you're not crazy when you think about it, stuff like that happening. And that it's, you know, it's almost like your best friend is going like this, going, come on, you know it's true, it's true. Whenever I get like a phone call like that, or a confirmation from some other realm. So that was fun. I had a number of other things happen. Some of them are probably not ripe for daytime television or nighttime television for that matter. But I had a number of other cool things happen. There is a couple that live across the street here, and they, oh my gosh, they're retired. I'm not sure how old they are, but probably in their 70s. And then another gentleman who was 77, who's friends with the folks who live in this house, came over to help me lube my O-rings in my water pump for the pool, because the valve was sticking and I couldn't turn it to do the wash, for anyone who knows what pools are. Hey, it looks like she's with us.
Yeah, she's here.
But while I was waiting for this gentleman, the folks across the street came out and just happened to be in their yard, and he was cutting flowers for her from their own garden. He's cutting these flowers. I said, "Oh, that's nice. What are you going to do with them?" He said, "I'm cutting them for my honey." And she's standing right behind him, and he hands them to her. It was just so adorable. But I had just been inside watching some documentary where this couple is out in their yard cutting flowers. The man gives the woman the flowers, and another person drives up, which in this case, the other person was the 77-year-old guy who came to help me with my water pump. And in this documentary, the guy drives up, and the two guys go, "Hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah." And they go and they shake hands and have this conversation. And when this guy arrives, he walks over to this guy, goes, "Hey, how are you?" And they shake hands. And I'm watching the same thing happening on my front porch that I just saw happening in a documentary moments before. So again, just another example of how the mysteries of spirit were being revealed to me, just showing me that there is magic, there is more, there is this wonderful, luscious, molecular knowing that exists and was revealed to me. So my whole week was revelations of just reminding me that, yes, in fact, Barbara, you're not nuts. It's real. It's real. It's real. It's weird. It's bizarre, but it's real. So how was your week?
Interesting.
Well, I asked the folks in chat if anybody had any follow-ups to last week's affirmation, which again is, there are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me with ease and grace. And then I just shared a couple of experiences that I had that did in fact do that for me.
Nice. Well, yeah, I had a week of, I guess you could say, information overload. Talk about there are no secrets. Dee and I talked about it yesterday on the show that we've both been inundated with messages. People were, CCing us both into emails. So we were both getting them, and people telling their stories and giving little pieces. It'd be their visions, their meditations, their experiences, some of their research, something that they just watched or read that they recommend. I mean, I've got a backlog now of.
That's great.
I've got to look at, read, and watch, but it's growing. And it was a matter of just like little piece, and so Dee and I were reading and looking at all of this, and then having these discussions and just seeing that piece out of what that person said that kind of relates to what that person said. And it all just started to form this amazing picture again. A clearer picture of the reality that we're in. Sorry, I just need to close the fridge door.
Okay. Now that's unique.
Yeah.
It just happened to open itself up and, it invited you in.
So hello to everybody. I'm so sorry I'm late. The last 2 nights have been very, very weird. Very, very weird.
I love weird.
Well, for months, I've been exhausted, and I'm in bed asleep at 8:30, 9 o'clock, like it's a joke. But I have not been able to sleep the last 2 nights. And I woke up 20 minutes ago, basically, is what happened. And it's just, there's a weirdness going on. I don't know how to explain it. I tried explaining it yesterday, that when atoms or molecules get excited,
And
that's how I feel. I'm on the inside. It's like everything is just excited, and I can't sleep. I've even taken, not last night, the night before, I took a calcium and magnesium complex. It's supposed to make you really sleepy and have a good night's sleep. You don't take it until like 20 minutes before you want to go to bed. Made no difference.
That's funny.
So, what's happening? So did we get some good stories from people during the week?
Biggie didn't have a chance to share any, so I don't know, and I don't have the chat room up.
Okay. Tracy said the same thing, past 3 nights. She's been up, and so is her daughter, who's 13. Does Jeff want the link? Let me see. Sorry, excuse me, people. Normally this stuff is all done before we go live, but and we will attempt to take some calls later in the show today.
That would be great.
Yeah. See how it goes. So if you're on your computer, you can join, or even on your phone, there is a call-in number, so we'll do that later on. So I missed the beginning of that story, but from what I gathered, you actually got to relive something you just watched.
Yeah, and I had another situation where I got one of those phone calls that said, remember I was talking about on the show, the phone rang and it said, you have been, let the memories begin. You have been selected. I got another one of those on the 4th, it looks like it was, which was 4 days ago. Yeah, it totally freaked me out.
You said the same thing?
Yeah, said the same thing. Except this time I stayed on and listened, and it was a Disney, thing, an ad for Disney. But that's okay. I didn't really care, because all I care about is the first part.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to remember where we kind of left things off last week. But there are no mysteries, and that's what I feel like. I mean, whether we did it, whether we created it for ourselves, who knows? But it does feel as if the walls are breaking down. The veil is breaking down. You know, whether it's the veil of forgetfulness of who we are, or the veil of the matrix between us and the real world, reality. But something's definitely changing.
Yeah, that movie was on yesterday too, The Matrix.
Was it?
Actually, both of them were. It's probably because it was the holiday, and I don't watch television, but I turned the TV on yesterday to find one of those seascape channels for the music for the cat. That I was flipping through the channels that both Matrixes was on. Two different channels. I also took some notes from your show yesterday, because right as the show was winding down, you were talking about 3 different things that I just thought could be expanded upon if you're interested. One was the sacred geometry, where you were talking about lights and sound through the use of frequency, where you thought the key to breaking the matrix. And the other one was, I wrote molecules vibrating, which you were just talking about. And you were talking about your lightning experience and how it related to the boop, 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 boop in Close Encounters. Yeah. So any of those I think are interesting.
Well, I was wondering whether the lightning is what started off this excited molecular feeling. You know, but they're both electric.
That's interesting.
Because that's when it did start that night. And I was incredibly wound up in a very kind of way. Oh, you want a little bit? Am I too soft? Coming out too soft?
Sound okay to me, but I can't. I can only hear you on Zoom.
No different than yesterday. Okay. Well, I can put my input up a bit. There we go. I'm sitting a bit further back, I must admit. I don't know how to explain what I saw with that lightning show. That was really quite odd. I'd never seen anything like that before. Because you can imagine lightning in a snow globe with a very distinct edge on it. Or like those, you know, those globes that you touch from the electricity.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that, except it was intense. And like 4 or 5 different spots of it across the horizon. And it went on like that for 15 minutes before it looked like it started to break through that barrier and start to radiate. And then it did that one at a time.
Wow.
It was really weird.
Do you think it was man-made lightning? Or do you think it was Gaia doing something?
I felt more like it was the planet doing something. It didn't feel unnatural.
Because here we have lightning storms like that several times a week, because I guess where this place is located in the mountains nearby, which is where a lot of the electricity is around. But you will see it. You'll see it over here and then over here, and then it's constantly moving around and giving you a show. There's constantly lightning shows around here, but that's kind of normal here.
Well, this is looking out over the ocean.
Yeah, I know. So I'm saying, so I don't really have anything to compare it to.
What was the other thing you brought up? Oh, yeah, the sacred geometry. There's this is not a formulated concept as yet. This is just a feeling that I'm going with.
Yeah,
but
my favorite kind with you.
Yeah, and I do. That's how it feels. It feels like sacred geometry is the actual building blocks of the matrix itself, of light creation, of the construct. And I know that there is a sound frequency that's associated with each shape. And I heard a rumor, I can't remember who told me this. It was about
I didn't catch any of that. It kind of
when
went
Michael
robotic.
Jackson died, and that tour that he was planning. But apparently it was about Michael Jackson. Because you've heard about the controversy between 432 hertz and 430. 430? Is it 430 that we listen to now, and it should be 432? Is that what it is? Does anybody in the chat? Jeff would know, probably. There's something beyond that. 440. Okay. 440 is the one that we listen to, and it should be 432. Is that the way it works? Or it used to be 432? Yep. Okay. That Michael Jackson had figured out something beyond that, even about sound, that breaks down the programming. And when he was planning on doing his world tour and broadcasting that music in that frequency to literally wake everybody up, is something that I heard a couple of years ago.
What a great idea.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to go back to Jeff, because the guy knows every TV show and movie that is worth watching. There was a show that had this concept. They were having raves, and it was in the music, and people were being affected by the music and waking up. Wow, I forgot all about that until just then. I wonder if Jeff knows what that is. Crap, don't know. Jeff. There is, to me, I think there is something in this, that there is a sound, there is a frequency, maybe there's a light code that's associated with it. And if there's anybody out there who knows more about sacred geometry, it's associated like the sound frequencies, I'd love to have a chat, or throw me something that I can have a look at, because do you remember years ago that moon vision that I had?
Which one?
It was before I met you, but I would have told you about it. Where I saw the base, I saw the moon as a base, and that there was like this fishing net that had been cast from the moon and was captured the earth. And this net did two things. It was a two-way process. It read the collective consciousness in order to monitor it. And then it also fed information into it to then filter down to the collective and control the collective. It was two things. But the base of it was on the moon. And maybe that's this construct that we're starting to see break down. But I've kept getting, whenever I've thought about this sacred geometry thing, I've been reminded of that. Hang on. If we were able to feed the right frequency, sound frequency, to this grid, I have a feeling it would just... I'm going to mute out.
I think so too.
When you talk.
Okay. Okay, so what that reminded me of was, I think it was probably before I met you, or somewhere around that, sometime in 2012, I would guess. 2011, 2012. I was listening to an evening radio program called something of the Masters. I guess it doesn't matter what it was called, but Dee Wallace, the woman who plays the mother in E.T., do you know who she is? I mean, do you know what I'm talking about? Can you picture her? You can just shake your head. Her name is Dee, D-E-E, Wallace. She played the mom in E.T., you know, the little boy. Okay, did you watch E.T.? All right. Well, anybody who's seen E.T. knows that the kids had a mom. And it was a supporting role, but that was her. Anyway, she's a spiritualist, even though she's also still an actress. And she was on the show. And the night before, I had had a dream that I was on Main Street. But we have a lot of main streets on Long Island because we have a lot of towns on Long Island. And almost every one of them has a main street. So I thought that I was either in Smithtown or Islip. But I knew I was on Main Street and I was looking for 264. And I don't know why, but I was just looking for 264. And I was looking and I couldn't find it. And then I finally walked by where it should be. And there was like a big empty lot with it wasn't a gravel or a concrete. It was a grass lot, which doesn't exist on Long Island or New York City. And I thought that's really weird because eventually I woke up because I couldn't find it. And it was one of those dreams where I felt the steps as I walked. So it was kind of, it was a vivid dream. So anyway, I'm listening to this radio program that night and Dee Wallace is just talking along like I'm talking now. And then all of a sudden out of the blue, she stopped herself and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, right before the show, I got a vision that frequency 254 means all-knowing, not all-knowing. 254, not 264. My dream, I was looking for 264, but I couldn't find it. And then she just out of the blue goes, 254 is the frequency of, I think it was all knowledge or all knowing or something like that. But I thought that's really close. That's bizarre that and then she goes, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that I learned this frequency 254 means absolute knowing." Okay, and so I was talking about da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's all she said. And I thought, that's really weird. But from that point forward, I really started thinking about frequencies. And I do believe that not only do we have our own signature frequency that we vibrate at, but that everything does, and that certain pure frequencies, I think, have evolved to perform an intent, or are there to example or to support an intent or a task or something. Like she said, that one meant all-knowing. Then 435 might mean something too, and it vibrates for a purpose. So if you can tap into whatever the frequency is for whatever it is you want to do, whether you want to become invisible or time travel or go, change your clothes or, whatever, change your eye color for the afternoon or whatever. I think that if we can figure out how frequencies work, which are both light frequencies, sound frequencies, there are different kinds of sensory frequencies, that we would actually be able to take like the next step into what we would be able to achieve. Because all we would need to know is this frequency is assigned to this concept, and then we would be able to figure out how to then train ourselves to match those frequencies.
Yeah, well, somebody put in the chat room that I forget the university, but there's a short YouTube video of them putting out a fire with sound. I remember seeing that too. And using sound to levitate objects. So sound can actually negate gravity itself. And if we can do that with sound, we can do just about anything.
And also on a certain pitch, because let's just take, 257. I don't care. Let's say it's 257. there are different pitches. You can have the same sound, but the sound will be purer or cleaner if you're using different frequencies to master it, to master that sound vibration. And I know that because I've listened to music that was just the regular music that was recorded, and then I listened to it remastered on a certain frequency level, and it sounded the same, but it sounded resonant. It sounded cleaner. It sounded the same, but different. And so I think that there are different pitches to frequencies too. And so you have to get the pitch on each of those frequency levels just right as well. That's just my guess.
You think it's connected with the noises that people are hearing?
I don't know, because I've been hearing noises for a while. I hear sounds. Yeah, I hear them in my ears quite often, and they don't bother me or anything. I figure that those are being sent to me because I'm asking for them in some way, or I need them in some way to keep myself balanced. I've always assumed in the last 6 months that they're there in a supportive capacity, and that they're there on purpose. That I'm either bringing them in or they're bringing themselves in. But I hear them all the time.
There's a lot of controversy, we'll say, as to the source and their intent. Like, sometimes there are attempts at manipulation, sometimes they're spirit talking to you, sometimes they're you tuning into the planet. I mean,
so what was that one we just heard?
Yeah, that was my phone telling me something. But I don't get them that often. I had them twice within a couple of days of each other. This was new. This wasn't that high pitched sort of thing that goes off in the air. This was like somebody struck a triangle. Mm-hmm. Just once, just went ding, and that was it.
It just stays.
Whoa. And it happened in the left ear both times within a couple of days of each other when I was talking about the same thing. So that I took as a sign of an internal sign. But that high-pitched sound, that one that almost sounds external, I haven't had that very often for a long time. I used to get it all the time, but not so much anymore. And this came up a bit yesterday, and people were talking about in the chat room saying, yeah, lots of people are still getting the ringing in the ears. Connie, you've had that one tone that just goes off? Bashar said everything has a frequency address, and if you focus on the final address frequency, you don't need the steps in between. Yeah, I get that too. It's like when you're trying to manifest something, you just focus on the end result, not the how to get there. Again, Royal Rifle Machine. That's also based on frequency. And the healing program that I was a part of for 10 years, it's all based on frequency. And your photograph. It's all holographic and sound and light. So, I mean, I know these things work. Oh, yep. Okay. But I also think that maybe our senses are stretching beyond their current limitations.
Trying to figure out how to harness it.
That much of the light spectrum, we hear that much of the sound spectrum. I think that, we're expanding those senses as well.
Well, sometimes I also think it's the approach, and this is probably going to look weird on the television, with the video camera. But when I first started noticing that I was having strange experiences when I was in college, and I just didn't understand them. In a nutshell, I mean, I didn't think if they were anything like what I've now come to understand them to be since Mom's passing. But I remember distinctly there's a period when I seemed to have an energy I didn't understand. For example, a friend of mine came into my dorm room and I wasn't seriously mad, but I went, no, 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 no. And when I did that, a picture falls off my wall. That's, there's nobody in the other dorm room going, shut the fuck up or anything, it's just, it falls off the wall. And I got a feeling my dad was in the hospital. There's something wrong with my dad. So I called my mom and I said, how's dad? And she's like, oh, Barbie, he's fine. I said, well, would you go check on him? He's just sitting right over there, Barbie. He's just fine. I know. But, just baby me here a little bit. Can you just go check on him? Puts the phone down in the other room, comes back. Barbie, he's sitting in the chair and he's just fine. What's wrong with you? Nothing, Mom. I just had a feeling. I thought maybe he wasn't feeling well. And like 15 minutes later, he had a heart attack and she took him to the hospital. So when a few of those things happen, yeah, isn't that weird?
15 minutes.
Oh, or less. And so when those couple of things happened to me in college, I remember I felt very uneasy because I didn't understand it. How could that be possible? Who can I talk to about it? But that's when I understood that, there was, I don't want to call it frequency, but there was the point of sharing that story is just to say that I believe that there are different frequencies that we can achieve different things with. And for example, in that point, I'm somehow tapping into the frequency of the health of my father. Now, I don't know, is that because I'm connected with the vibration of his body, or I'm connected with the vibration of his head and he's already aware of it, or something bigger? I don't know. But what I do know is that those kinds of things exist. And I believe that the more open you are about allowing those possibilities in, that's when you begin to learn, because you start to see what's happening like around you. Like for another example, the other night I was sitting out in the back garden area, and I felt, I don't know, a vibration, or I felt an energy. So I'm just allowing it. I'm saying, okay, well, I'm just going to allow this energy and let just pass through me, around me. Let me just see if I can get a handle on this a little bit. And I didn't get anything per se that way, but then there started being a whole bunch of shooting stars for like 20 minutes. So we can call those whatever you want to call them. I'll call them shooting stars. So I believe that there was a connection between those two things again. But how we tap into it, because it is such a small piece of the bigger whole, is the next step. It's all part of an allowing. But the reason I mentioned that story before with my dad was because when I first started noticing something was happening, I was trying to make it. I'm going, okay, I know this is real because something's happening. And it was like, like, I'm going to make that thing fall over. I'm going to make it fall over. But, it's exactly the opposite. It's like almost like a relaxation and a complete allowing, as if you don't exist anymore. You just are the air that you're breathing. And you feel so light that you almost don't exist, and you're just allowing, which is the opposite of fall down, cup. And that took me a lifetime, to figure out, because when I was younger, it wasn't working, but that's all I could think of was, well, if I'm doing this, then I must be doing it, which means I must have to exert some kind of force. And it's just not that. So I don't know if we've actually learned how to access those things yet, but once we do that, the rest is golden.
Well, Michael Monk and others say that it's about resonance. It's about becoming empathic with the thing that you want to influence, becoming one with it, matching its frequency, I guess, is another way of saying that. And yeah, that does sound like a receptive, allowing process rather than a more active Yeah. Constipated feeling.
Exactly.
But I mean, I still think that's how they probably created the pyramids. You know, I mean, if everyone just stood around and said, okay, that block over there and that block over there.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it was like that too. Or they figured out how to utilize just the light or the sound that was around them, and to do the manual labor. But they figured out how to actually massage and manipulate all of that.
Exactly.
So that's what I want to remember.
So Biggie, if you would like to share the call-in details on how people can join us on the screen, feel free to do that. They will appear up on screen for everybody. Because I actually miss having our callers and hearing their voices.
Yeah, me too, because they've got a lot of stuff to say.
Absolutely. And sometimes for them, it's tricky to keep track of the chat room and, have the conversations they're having in the chat room and sort of try and keep up with what's going on in here. And so we'd love to hear from you. Be one of the first callers for the new collective. But okay, so looking at what we've covered off over the last few weeks in terms of our own intents, we've had one for the last one, which was revealing there are no secrets.
Yeah, I've got them all here.
Okay.
Spirit is my supply and their supply to meet every demand. And just prior to that, I am taking this time to create my day, and I'm infecting the quantum field. If it is in fact the observer watching me the whole time that I'm doing this, and there's a spiritual aspect to myself, then show me a sign today that you paid attention to any one of the things that I created and bring them to me in a way that I won't expect. And then the first one was, let me now express the divine idea in my body, in my mind, body, and affairs.
That first one, let me now express the divine idea in my mind, body, and affairs. That to me is powerful. And that kicked off a series of events for me personally, that affirmation. Before we did it on the show. I started working with that one about a week before. And I won't go into it yet, into detail publicly, because it's still a work in progress, and I don't want to, jinx it. But it did set off a series of very synchronistic events. And I'd love to hear if anybody had something similar, and I know when I say similar, it's hard to know what I'm talking about because I'm not giving away too much. But in terms of, did you get any clearer on your next steps, on direction to take? Because that's what it did for me.
Did it? No, I'm just getting confirmations, but I'm not getting instructions.
Yeah, it wasn't so much instructions, it was here. It was something. And then something amazing presented itself, and then all the necessary connections and resources to make it happen also appeared in a matter of days. So, and something that was not part of my consciousness prior to, like an idea that just wasn't part of my consciousness. It came out of nowhere. First the idea, and here it is in form, and then here's who you need and what you need to make it happen. And it happened like that in a matter of like 4 or 5 days.
Wow. I can't wait to hear what that's about.
Yeah, so it involves you too. So it's still a work in progress, but if anybody had any.
I had something like that happen, but it was with automatic writing. So I didn't have, in the manifestation process, I didn't have an issue and then have the resolutions just show up for me. But what I did was I had a couple of really important things that I had to write, and I just didn't feel like I had the wherewithal or the focus to do it, but I had to do it. You know, I had a time limit on it. So I said, okay, I'm not going to write this. I'm just going to release myself to the keyboard, and I'm just going to let it go and just see what happens. And hopefully I'll get a lot of crap, but I'll be able to cut it out and get remove the fluff and be left with, the nice cookie. And I didn't have to get rid of the fluff. I ended up with almost idyllic, very good, very well written pieces that were of me, but I don't feel like I wrote them. Does that make sense? So I was able to utilize the manifestation in an automatic way that way, where the tools weren't given to me, but the actual product was somehow just funneled right through me and out through my hands. And I was really happy because it made the process really easy, and I didn't even have to really think about it. It was much better than anything I could have written.
Oh, I think that's key. That is key to manifestation. It's easy when we get out of our own way and allow, everything becomes easy and fun. It's always fun. It's like Spirit wants you to enjoy the process and just wants to have fun. It doesn't do anything the hard way. It really doesn't. And we're the ones who get in the way and make it hard and complicate things. But we're so used to doing what you did before, we're trying to make things happen, that we complicate it and we make it hard. And it's a real art, trying to relax and allow and get out of your own way. It takes practice. We do have a caller. Who do we have? Hello. You're unmuted.
Are you talking to me? Hello?
Yes. Hi. Who is this?
Oh, hi. This is, well, you'd see me in your chat room as Jules.
Hi, Jules.
My name is, well, you can call me Julianne. That's my actual name.
Julianne. Okay, lovely.
Well, I wanted to comment, and because it's really difficult to obviously tell you guys what coincidence, weird things happen in a few lines through the chat room. I had a really weird, interesting epiphany, which related to your story, Lisa. So the story you told us last week, where you essentially saw yourself when you were younger, but you didn't see yourself the same way, and how everything kind of opened. And all of that. It was very interesting because I had been meditating on our mantra affirmation. And the next morning I go to meditate, and it was like a whole bunch of information, it felt like, just came in. And it's like, and I'm really bad for not being a writer. I don't like to write. I just have never really associated myself very well with the English language, even though that is my natural language, my born language in this life anyways. So I got compelled, and I wrote down essentially what kind of came to me. And what it was the interesting idea of how your mom's friend passed away, and you guys had some energy that was kind of similar, that opened up for you to be able to go through that transition and create space and change. And then it kind of came to all the stuff that's happening right now, all the energies that are changing, all these things, and all this, maybe it's mass hysteria or whatever, that something big could happen. And then this thought came, well, is this going to be the energetic change? Though I don't know what's going to happen, but let's say few people or millions of people somehow pass away sometime in September. And they're going to be in line or have some similar, energy connections to many of us that may not be part of whatever may happen if something bad in that sense happened. Would this not leave us open, that many of us will be open to have this energy shift immediately if there was like a major catastrophe in, let's say, New York? So it was really interesting because it was like in my mind, everything pictured that even though I may not know these people, if there was a mass thing, but we're more aware of this energy that we're opening up to, that we could be really taking that energy forward to the ones that are awakened with it. And then, of course, those that aren't open are going to really struggle, which would make a lot of sense about people saying what's going to happen energetically and all the different things I've heard about, you know, you're either going to walk into it or, you know, you're going to shut down your chakras. It was just a very interesting thing of how it related very much to the energy connection you had with your mom's friend, to kind of how that's all connected on the larger scale of how we are connected, and that it would open up channels towards us if something like that did happen, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Because what was really strong was my Gandalf character said to me, every time somebody leaves the planet, every time somebody passes, they take the frequencies with them that they're carrying. And it is a gift. Everybody on the planet has the opportunity to clear those
alert from
resonances.
calendar.
Stop.
Henry Doran's 20.
And everybody has the opportunity to use those frequencies. So whenever there is, a mass event where a lot of, you know, a natural disaster where a lot of people pass, if we can change the way we look and feel about that and see that as a gift, that they're taking a whole chunk of negative energy with them, and allow ourselves to release whatever is in us that's associated with that. Is that what you're sort of saying?
Well, very much so, because really when I'm reading through the stuff that I just like was scribbling down, one of the big things is this could lead to the evolution past this cycle, was what came to me as part of this. So if they were opening this energy that, you know, if let's say 1 million people, there was some weird thing happens in New York, they're gone. And it's a very sudden shock, right? Very much like 9/11. We're running into this point where energies have changed. So back when September 11th happened, we were very different, all of us, and where we were was very different. Where now, if something like that happens on a larger scale, and we know that we've got the connection, like you said, that if some, you know, everybody's got some energy that they open up when they pass away, we're going to have, like, the odds are that you're going to resonate with somebody's energy that's leaving and something that's going to be creating an opening, really, especially if it is a mass one that takes out, like, the whole east coast of the United States or something, right? So that was just the thing that came to me, was just this whole thing about how maybe that is a purpose to us waking up, even if we don't think of it as a positive thing, and that we're, you know, we don't want to live in that fear center, but if something like that does happen, maybe that is what is supposed to happen to create the end of that cycle.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I've also thought about this, Lisa. What do you think of this? When folks like Robin Williams or Joan Rivers, or just the other day, Wayne Dyer, when they pass, I also think that I get a feeling that the energy of theirs that's positive is actually getting released too, because I actually feel after each one of those guys passed, I actually felt like the world was okay for a moment. As weird, as opposite, in other words, that their energy got released, and they're such powerful, funny people, or, you know, spiritual people, that they had this big buildup of positivity with them. And when they left, it got released, and we got the advantage of that as well. So you're talking about them taking stuff with them. I'm talking about them releasing stuff. I'm just wondering, I mean, it feels possible to me. What do you think of that?
It totally feels possible. There's no reason why it wouldn't be both.
Yeah. No, and the only thing I got from it, from this epiphany, was just that whatever this energy connection was, it can be on any of those, like either of those ways. It's just going to release and keep us or allow that opening to happen. And if you're aware of it, you're going to really move, and if you're not, you're going to struggle, which then, just like what all these other things we're hearing about, you know, going with the flow, and like if you're fighting it, you're going to struggle. So it was an interesting thing because I didn't get, you know, it's not like details, but it was just this whole thing that this energy that will be released on whatever level can be connected in this mass amount of people. So it could be really actually a very positive thing, even if we may initially think it's not a positive thing.
Well, I mean, this brings up
That
a bigger
makes sense.
question about death and what that really is and what it really means, and is it a tragedy?
Well, and if we do make contracts with why we come to this earth, and we may have already decided that we have a life and we're supposed to do something, certain people believe this, then a lot of them may already know that whatever their purpose is. So, you know, whether they were a Holocaust and they were a victim of that, that was their purpose for whatever, if you believe that happened, right? Because we get into the whole thing of whether anything really happened or not, leads down, you know, the rabbit hole. But the idea is that, you know, maybe there's a contract that multiple people already know that that's what their purpose is. And at some contract level, you know, they came to this life in this matrix to do that purpose. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. You really do have to rethink the whole life and death process and what it all means.
Yeah.
And, this is such a bigger conversation, isn't it? About whether or not there are victims and whether we choose exactly, you know, are there any accidents, all that sort of stuff. Do we only ever leave the planet exactly when and how we plan to? I know through doing the HK course, within that is the concept that life can be taken when before it's time, but that's not a universal belief, you know. Some feel differently that there are no accidents, and we leave here exactly how we intended to, when we intended to.
That's exactly it. It's just very interesting because it just came back, and I saw the whole conversation that you explained, not your whole conversation, the whole story you told us, and like how it came in me and how my brain like absorbed it. It was just very interesting and very powerful. I was like, this is all connected. It's always been connected, and it is very much like you talked about. It's all the little pieces coming together that just make more sense. And sometimes you might not even have the right words to understand how that's all working, but you know, it just does. It's like it gets, I don't know. And myself, I think a lot of things go so deep that I may not understand logically, because I think we've been so programmed that you want to know exactly how these things work. And just like Heather was saying about how you want to know how to physically like do a manifestation and make that happen. Like you want to have that internal, like, because everywhere else we do things, we actually move or we actually make a step towards it, where when we step back to manifest or create or work into these energies, we don't have to do as much. And it's very difficult for us to understand that and to also know, well, how do we make something happen when we're not really sure, you know, how to use these energies and all these things coming around. So nonetheless, I'm going to listen to you on the TV because it's easier on my computer than my phone. But thank you so much, and I will let somebody else talk.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, call again.
Yeah, that was awesome. Okay, well, let's start. This started a whole other conversation going on in the chat room, which is that Denise is saying that we don't need to deal with disasters and things like that. And people are saying, but what if this is actually the process the planet is going to go through in order to release these energies? So I'll read it. I'll actually read what it says. The new earth is here, and only love frequencies work. The old ways will fall away, false flags among them. Set the intent that all energies only permit positive scenarios. Forget about a massive event that takes out the East Coast, and intend that it's not possible. Question to Denise is, what if this event is something Earth has to do for her own growth? Denise, that's the old paradigm. There is no thing that the new Earth needs that would come from a disaster. The energy does not need to be released through a mass death or destruction. we can allow and intend only the highest frequencies now. No more Holocausts, no more 9/11s. That's behind us. Remember, what we think and imagine we create. What do you choose to create? Response, okay, I get what you are saying from a human perspective, but who are we to tell Gaia what to do, especially after the way we treat her? Well, you have every right to intend your own experience and your own creation. Words create, speak wisely. So I'm getting both. I get both sides of that conversation and that
So
argument.
do I.
So one side, what if, on the one hand, the planet and the people involved have already agreed on a co-creative event that releases a bunch of energy? And on the other hand, can we create something different? I mean, if we all sat around here and did an intent that we're going to release certain frequencies and energies on the planet in a way that is fun, with ease and grace, that benefits the planet and the consciousness, could we then negate the need to do it in a destructive way? Or do we allow the planet and the consciousness of the people involved to go through the process that they've already planned? Are we interfering?
Right.
I mean, this gets into all kinds of rabbit holes.
Because it might be a process. It might be a process that they need to ultimately wake up themselves. And in denying them that contrast, we're denying them the events that would then allow them to awaken later on. I'm just saying it's a maybe. See, here's how I kind of look at it. Because I don't have answers for big questions like that, I can only go by my own experience. And my own experience tells me, just in my little world, that I create what my world. And if I don't want any more 9/11s or any of that kind of stuff, then there will be none for me. That doesn't mean that they won't exist right outside my little bubble, but they're not going to impact the reality that has become my own. And I only say it because that has been my experience. So I also believe that the negative contrast that a lot of us go through is a necessary part of the process, because I don't think I could have ever recognized the greatness of the diversity on the spiritual or the positive side once all those synchronicities started happening to me, if I hadn't had such a straight-laced, logical, contrast-filled life prior to that. And believe me, I've had some major stuff. My father was murdered. I was raped. That guy, when he got out, the next woman, he killed her because I was really clever and made him think I liked me, or that I liked him, so that he would not kill me, you know. And as a result, he learned that if you do that, then you end up in jail. So the next woman he killed. I had a series of not so nice boyfriends. I married a guy who ripped me off for hundreds of thousands of dollars, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I've had 2 cars blown up in my driveway in the period of 6 months, and on and on and on and on. And that's just like, you know, that's just the stuff on the outside. That's not the stuff that I was immersed in the law firms and all the, you wouldn't believe what I know that I can't talk about. So, but the point is, that's a lot of shit. And I'm sitting here, I'm a really happy person. Everybody knows me. I'm like so extra perky. It's annoying sometimes. I can't help myself that I'm such a perky person. And you wouldn't guess it knowing the history that I've had. So I think that the contrasts that I experienced were necessary for me to really recognize the genuine, over the top, amazing value of the experiences that I had once my mom passed. I don't know. That's just my take on it. What do you think?
I'm sitting here in shock that I've known you for as long as I have, and I just learnt some of those things.
Well, I don't talk. Yeah, I don't talk about them, because what different? It's not going to change anything that I do when I wake up now. I mean, believe me, I could keep going. I could keep going and give you 10 more just as bad. But it doesn't impact who I am today. And I've always kind of been the kind of person that was able to get through those kinds of really amazing challenges. But the point for me is just simply that I think that contrast, and I also think you asked for it. I don't think you intentionally asked for it, but I ended up in New York because I wanted to live in New York, and I didn't even really think about it. It was such a fleeting thought when I was watching a TV show that it didn't occur to me that I had manifested that. I dated the same kind of guy 3 guys in a row, and I finally realized I was dating the same kind of guy. But I had to go through it to recognize that, so I would stop it. So I do think that for all I know, everything that I'm living, even the contrast, was created for me, by me, at some earlier stage, and it's always necessary. Otherwise, I could never have reached the crescendo that I did. I would probably still be a housewife in, farm country in Indiana.
But does that mean that that's the way things have been, so that's the way things will continue to be? Or are we at a point now where we don't need the extremes of contrast? That, we've been living in this place of duality and contrast of such extremes. Do we need them anymore? Can we do things?
I don't think I do. I don't think anyone who's awake needs them. I think that when you're awake, you recognize they're happening around you, but you don't allow them to impede on the integrity of the experience that you're having at that moment. So they don't bother me. Even when shit's, happening all around me, it just never seems to really, sprinkle on me. And so I don't know if I could deny someone else's need for that. But I also think that just as easily as we can manifest what you were saying, manifest an energy that would, in fun and ease and grace, just allow that to dissipate and allow people to move through it and on to the ultimate destination without having to go through the contrast. I think that's also possible. But I also think a lot more of it is divined or intertwined or connected in a way that I still don't recognize, because I think a lot of what's happened in my life was, I don't want to say predestined, but was of my own making. And each step of the way, I kept making all this. I just wasn't realizing that I was making it.
I think even if we did create that intent and create that space, it would still be up to every individual to choose to step into it.
Yes. And there are some people that just never will. I mean, look at my sister, who I'm sure will never watch this program. I love you, wherever you are. I love you. So let me, just love me when I share the story. I mean, she was there when my mom died, and she saw my mom's body go from an 84-year-old woman to a girl, 18 to 25, somewhere in there. And she witnessed it with me, and because she did, I talk about it. If she wasn't there, I don't think I probably would have just talked myself out of it. That didn't really happen. I just thought it did. But now she doesn't even refer to that anymore. She doesn't think about it. She doesn't like me to talk about anything that's woo related. I adore her, but because of her being not awake, she is made very nervous by my conversations, like the one we're having just, since the show began. That would make her so nervous. So she saw it. She experienced it firsthand. She saw the miraculousness of it, the wonder of it, the, improbability of it, at least according to what we're taught. And yet she sits in her skin and she would never step in. She's just not going to let herself do that. She's going to always talk herself out for whatever her personal reasons are. She's not ready. And I've just come to understand through my experience with her that not everybody is going to be ready, not because they're stupid or they can't, because they don't want to. She doesn't want to. She's, and that's okay too. It's just, I don't think that we can make it available for everyone. I think they have to step into it. I think they have to be awake and aware enough to allow. And if they can't allow it, then they'll never experience it. Even if we sent it out and it passed right through them, vibrationally just went right through them, they would never even be aware of it because they're not stopping to allow it.
I know Jeff's got something to say on the matter. Come on out, Jeff.
So, Barb, I don't really know your background, but I'm just in awe of how you've self-resolved things that I'll speak for Lisa and I, learned in HK class. So I just wanted to say that's remarkable. I mean, you're talking in HK terms all the time. And
really?
You haven't been to the class. So back to the point of, collectively, can we just walk out of this thinking positive? On an individual level, at this moment, I think a person still needs to experience any harm or interference they have created to others. So those type of challenges will happen to those that need to still resolve them. If you've cleared your issues, on the other hand, the self-resolving HK class, all types of other modalities, that's where we're stepping into something new that has yet to be shown. And we all have this inkling that something's new coming. But if a person is polarized in thinking that as a collective humanity, we can just walk out and cheat laws and lores of self-resolving, aren't we kidding ourselves? I mean, just because we collectively say we're done, how does that work with universal law? That's just a question.
So just to elaborate on what you're saying, though, for everybody, universal law being that you get to experience both sides of your creation. So if you hurt somebody, if you damage someone in some way, then you get to, at some point in this life or another, get to experience the opposite end of that creation.
Unless you acknowledge it and self-resolve it.
Yeah.
Well, you experience it until you acknowledge it and self-resolve it. Does that make sense?
It does, but can I ask you for an example? There's a guy that, 20 years ago was in a real estate deal with me, and the deal fell through, and he lost his $10,000, and I've always wanted to give it back to him. And he's always hated me because we lost his $10,000. So I know how I've resolved that for myself, but in the scenario you're describing, how would a person utilize those tools to resolve that kind of an outstanding issue if they hadn't already?
Oh, Lisa, you were just in the class. I don't know all the answers, but
I think intent is the biggest thing here.
Well,
your intent was pure and your intent was to resolve it. If he's not allowing you to, That's his.
That's his issue.
Right.
That's exactly the right answer. That's how I perceive it too.
That's a projection from him to you that is not yours to bear.
Right.
If your intent was good and you acknowledge the situation, you know, okay, this happened, this person suffered, but my intent was right. That's self-resolved.
It is. And that actually is how I have resolved a number of things, is what was my intent or what was their intent. And if I had an issue with them and their intent was a negative one, I'm like, okay, their intent was a negative one. And then I just let that go, because now I've just resolved it from my side, you know, and then I move on. That's excellent. So for anyone who's in the chat or who listens to this later, part of the process of manifesting or being able to bring yourself to some of these levels we're talking about has to do with being cognizant of your intent at all times. Because there are many things you will find that you will do, that you are doing, that by many will be perceived as wrong or incorrect or bad or whatever label you want to put on it. But none of that matters with respect to you, your creation, and your reality, unless you don't feel good about the intent that you had in that situation.
Beautiful.
And if you don't, then you have to work it out for yourself and figure out, you know, just everyone, it's an individual process, I would guess.
So going back to the big East Coast catastrophe or whatever, that is probably lifetimes ago. People did something bad to other people, and there's a massive resolving going on, possibly. That's a tough one. But really, it's down to the individual. Trying to self-resolve yourself with the help of tools, because you don't know all the history of yourself. You need a little bit of help through other modalities to get into this state we call 0 point, where you're just the observer. And you're right, you just watch stuff move around you. And it's pretty cool.
I'm going to tell the story. The last day of HK class. And what came up for me were these different scenarios that had ended up with a belief system of having to be responsible for others, feeling a sense of responsibility for other people around me. And how I've allowed that to play out in my life, this belief system. And so I get to the station, the train station after the show, after the course, to come home. And I'm walking along the platform. There's a woman leaning against the wall on this side of me on her phone. The platform's here. My bags are on this shoulder. And I'm walking. I go past her and I hear something drop. And I turn to look because I was wondering whether it was mine, whether I dropped something. And it was her phone. She dropped her phone. So I went, oh, okay, cool. And I kept walking. Just as my train's pulling in, she comes up, she runs up to me and she taps me on the shoulder. She says, and she's got her phone in front of her and the screen's all smashed. And she's like, you broke it. I'm like, what? Look, it's broken. And her English was not, she was an immigrant. English was not her first language. And I said, how? She said, your bag. And I had to think about it for a second. And my immediate response was to feel responsible. Went straight there. And then I thought about it and I went, hang on, you were on my left, my bags were on the right. I didn't feel like I bumped you. And then I went, oh. I felt like I was testing myself. Spirit was testing me. You going to fall for this again? was the words that went through my head. And I said, I'm sorry, you know, if that was me, and I don't think it was absolutely an accident, and I very much apologize, but I have to get on that train. Because it was just about to, the doors were just about to close. And I got on the train. And I'm sitting there going, far out, did I do that? And I spent the 10 minutes going, was that me? Did I do that? Am I responsible? And I really had to search. And I went, no, I know it wasn't. I think she was just she dropped her phone and she was, you know,
Pissed
and trying to get someone to, you know, fire a new one. But I had to look at that initial response, and it was immediately to feel responsible. And then I almost, it kind of felt like my own spirit was laughing at me. You gonna fall for it? Go on. You gonna fall for it? And I chose to see it, I guess, as the as a test to see whether I was going to fall back into that program. So in that moment, I resolved that issue. Is how it feels, and nothing's happened since for me to, you know, instantly feel responsible for someone or something. But it was a funny way for it to play out.
It is funny. And besides, I'll bet you anything that you find that you have those situations happen less and less because you won't need them anymore.
Well, I haven't had one since, so that's good going. But Jeff, do you find things like that too when you work through a process or a program or a belief system that you would kind of get tested on it? It would show itself again pretty quickly?
All the time, especially still working in the matrix, whether it's a banking cut over to a new banking system, the cube farm workers test me, just perfect lessons. And I've learned to and I say it out loud and everybody thinks I'm goofy now, but I say, I see you, Matrix, and I acknowledge you. And then it just dissipates right then and there. It's awesome.
Oh, I like that.
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, that's what Dee and I've been doing on the One People Show, going, I see you, do not consent.
Yeah.
But actually saying it out loud, I see you, Matrix. Yeah. There's something very powerful about when we speak things out loud. Again, it comes to sound and frequency and tone and.
Yeah, you have to say it out loud. Well, it works when you say it out loud. My experience.
Yep. Which is why I really wanted to incorporate that in the affirmations that we do each week. It's for us to say them out loud. It just makes it so much more powerful. Speaking of which, what based on all the places we've gone today, what we've already done a few weeks, what feels like an appropriate thing for today? I mean, it sounds like to me creating a safe, fun, graceful portal for the negativity, the lower frequencies, whatever you want to call them, to be released from the planet without the need for any pain or suffering for anybody or the planet itself.
What do the people in the chat say?
Let's hear from them. I see you, Matrix Peekaboo, says Jeff and Sharon. Yeah, does that feel like where you want to go today? I mean, we can, I remember the big tsunami, what was it, 2004? God, was it that long ago?
I honestly don't remember when it was.
The Christmas, Boxing Day or Christmas Day one? Took out Sri Lanka and, we lost a lot of people. 260,000 or something like that. That was felt energetically. You could feel that release. And maybe I was open to it because of the experience that I had, but that's what I felt, that there was a release, that they took so much stuff with them. And it really was a gift. But maybe we just don't need to do it that way anymore. And it doesn't mean, I guess all we can do is create that space for it. And people have an option then to make another choice.
That's true. We can just create and hold the space.
The frequency of it is to dissipate the lower vibes. And I love the one-way portal creation. Go for it. Let's do that. Okay. All right. So if it's a portal, Jeff, you might want to help me with this. Do we create a dimension where we send these to, all these negative energies, lower vibrations, all this stuff that doesn't serve us and the planet anymore? Do we create a dimension and send it there to be resolved, transformed, transmuted, whatever word we want to use? Because I don't like the idea of creating a portal and sending that energy out there to run amok elsewhere.
How about if it's a portal that's got an entrance and an exit? You send them in through the portal, and before it comes out the exit, it's converted itself into something positive, and when it comes out the other end, it's not negative anymore. So it adds positive energy back into the world we live in, our reality.
Okay, elaborate, Jeff. Jeff just said that's a huge game. We could get knocked. So elaborate.
Okay. We know on an individual level, we can deal with things that affect us individually.
Mm-hmm.
I am very cautious doing collective things because there's so many strings involved that the baddies are all over it. And that's where you get dicey.
True. But I feel a little bit different. I feel like, we'll put it this way. I did to prove to a friend that manifestation is true, it is real. I did a manifestation assignment. And I didn't tell him, but what I did was he needed $100. And so I said, okay. And he'd been trying to manifest $100 for a long time. I said, how have you been doing it? He said, I go out on the back porch, I smoke a cigarette so nobody can see me, act like the fool. And I imagine a $100 bill falling at my feet. I said, okay, that's fine if that's the way it works for you. And he said, yeah, but every time it falls at my feet, I feel really guilty because it had to have come out of somebody's pocket or their purse. And what if they really needed it and they don't have any food for their kids and yada, yada. So he was talking himself out of it every time. So I decided just to show him. So what I did was I did a meditation where I did the equivalent of like a deliberate attraction statement, like I shared last week. And by the way, I did share the written version and some audio links to deliberate attraction statements on the Collective Imagination Facebook page. But to get to the meat of it, what happened was I made a decision. I said I would be getting $100 a day, and so would John. And what happened was I ended up going to the bank. I gave them I was getting a money order. When I give them my personal bank card. I don't have to pay for the money order fee. So I used my personal card, and it had expired, and unbeknownst to me, because I never use it for anything else. And how often does one get a money order? And so she couldn't help me. So she sent me over to customer service. Customer service helped me out. And he said, well, you do realize that once I update this and send you a new card, you're going to lose your cash back privileges that have been accumulating for this long. I said, I don't care about that stuff. I'm never going to buy anything from that book. Just, wipe it out. He goes, well, but you can also exchange it for cash and not just goods. So it was $80-something. And I thought, ooh, that's cool. And I'm not thinking anything yet. Just, ooh, that's cool. I got $80-something out of thin air. And then he said, well, as long as I'm here, do you want me to do that with your corporate account? And I went, sure. Because that one was going to expire in like another month or so, and I would have lost them. So he was converting them for me. That was like $120-something. Now add those two together, and you get just over $200 that came. And it was the way that I said it was something like that it would come to me easily, that it would benefit all parties involved, and that it wouldn't negatively impact anyone, yada, yada, which is exactly how it came. And I realized when I walked out of there, I had like $204 in change. My 100 and John's 100. Now, here's the thing, though. John, when I got home, I Skyped him. And when he got off of work, he and his wife called me. And I said, anything interesting happen to you today? He's like, no. And nothing did happen to him. And I said, well, something cool happened to me. Let me tell you. And I told him that I had done that and why I had done it and what happened as a result of that. And I got just enough for both of us to get our money. And what's his PayPal account? I'm going to send it to him, which I did. But what I learned from that experience is that I can manifest for myself, but I can't manifest for someone else, especially if they're not in the groove of it or whatever. And so the money for John, even though I said I'd get 100 and John would get 100, John didn't get it through his own actions because I can't manifest for John. I can't make $100 fall at his feet, but I can manifest the money for him. So you can't manifest for another person. So when you're talking about individuals versus collectives, I think if people are willing participants and they're pooling their energy and they go into it with an understanding of what the end result is, and they are comfortable with that, and so therefore they give their consent to participate in that, then I think that it can be successful and positive. But when you don't have everyone's consent, or you're trying to think of it one way and another person's trying to think of it in their way, and there's no like meeting of the minds in this collective effort, then I think that's where that leaves all those little holes for the negative energies to make their way in. So I think that it's good to stay, if you're going to manifest, it's good to try and just do it for yourself, because the results are unpredictable otherwise. But I also think collective efforts can be safe and positive if everyone involved is on the right page and is consenting and knows what they're doing, knows what they're participating in. What do you think about that, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, my caution was, if as this little game or dimension collective on the show is trying to get rid of all negativity on the planet, that can't work. No,
that is too broad. And how would we ever know anyway? So maybe slice it down and make it more palatable, make it more, make it smaller. Lisa, what should we ask for?
I'm just reading the chat room to see what everyone's consensus is. Barbara Lovelace wrote, I agree, no to this. Can you elaborate for me, darling? Because I'm not sure what you were referring to, whether you're talking about the intent we're discussing or something else went on in the chat room. What about an invitation?
That's invitation a good way to do it.
For the planet, for the collective, or the individuals who make the collective up, to release what no longer serves them, with ease and grace to be transformed. If we create a space that is just an invitation, then those who choose to pick up that invitation choose to.
And that will include tons more people than are ever in who watch the show. They'll be exposed to it, and the invitation will be granted to anyone who's at the right vibration. Are we going to call it negative energy?
No, I would just say whatever no longer serves. Because then we get into the whole, it's just a matter of perception, whether it's positive or negative. Or
yeah. So we've got an invitation to release and transform whatever energy no longer serves. Whatever no longer serves. That's what I've got so far.
Yeah, and how does that feel, Jeff?
Yeah, that's boils down to right down to the individual level. That's good.
I like the idea that I don't like what I've written down as the, written version of that intent. So again, what I have is an invitation to release and transform whatever no longer serves. It's close.
Lily's asking if you can ask the planet to neutralize it, but I wanted to include the planet in the invitation for her to release as well and give it up. Does that make? What do you think about that, Lily?
Invitation to all consciousness.
Invitation to the how would we address the planet? I don't want to use the word Gaia.
It's living, it's made of molecules, it's tangible, it's consciousness, it's
okay, wow. There's a lot going on yesterday. Like that, the planet may get rid of all of us.
anything to release and transform whatever no longer serves. That'd be funny, especially if boop 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 we just popped right off the air and disappeared.
If we invite Earth templates, we are involving the planet. I mean, let's include all life on the planet. I mean, animals, plants, everything. We're down to 10 minutes, so we better hurry up.
Invitation to all life on the planet to release and transform whatever no longer serves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have the new graphic handy?
No, but I'm happy to stay on the air and let people laugh at me while my mouth is gaping open and I'm meditating. That's okay. I can do it.
Okay. Sorry, it was one of those things I was going to have ready for today. But all right, let's do this, guys. We've only got a few minutes.
Yep.
Whew. Okay, nice deep breaths, everybody. Bring your consciousness to your center. Nice deep breaths. And take the consciousness down through your body, down into your feet, down through the floor, into the ground, through the topsoil, through the layers of earth and clay and minerals and crystals, right down to the center of the earth, to her core. See the roots coming out of your feet and down into the core and wrapping around the very heart of this planet. See the roots from everybody else that's participating, entwining around this heart, this crystal core. Feel yourself connect with the planet, with everybody participating. Allow yourself to receive and feel the planet's energy, her love for you, her support, her nourishment. Allow that energy to travel up through your roots into your body and center itself in your heart center. And now tune into that beautiful big bubble that we've created in the past, with its blues and greens, filled with all of the little bubbles of our intent, like a snow globe that we've previously placed there and that are continuing to work and continuing to emanate. And now within your heart center, take a nice deep breath and pop out just a little bubble in front of you and fill it now with your intent, which is an invitation. I invite the planet. I invite humanity. I invite all life on this planet to release with ease and grace all that no longer serves. I invite the planet and humanity and all life on this planet to release what no longer serves with ease and grace. I invite the planet, humanity, and all life on the planet to release what no longer serves with ease and grace. And with a breath, blow your bubble into the big bubble. See it filling up once more with everybody's little bubbles of intent. And know that these energies will be transmuted by source, by spirit, into something positive and of service. Really feel the invitation go out. Feel that energy go out. Touching people's spirits, touching their hearts. Some will accept. with gratitude. Feel yourself with each breath releasing what no longer serves you. Blow it out. Say the words again out loud once more. I invite the planet.
I invite the planet,
Humanity.
Humanity.
And all life on the planet.
And all life on the planet.
To release what no longer serves.
To release what no longer serves with ease and grace.
With ease and grace. And bring yourself back to center. Be present when ready. Sorry, that was pretty quick, I know. Last minute.
I like that though, because I kept visualizing people just walking down the street, minding their own business, and all of a sudden, whoosh, they're going to feel this air of something. And all of a sudden they're light and bubbly and full of joy, and they have no reason, they have no way to know why. They just feel good. So now every time you walk by somebody with a big smile on your face, you can go, I did that.
Yeah, I kind of had something similar. I just felt like these little sparkles as the invitation go out. And I just go, ping, ping. Pinging people. That was nice. Okay. This is just one of those things that's going to be impossible to track, really.
Yeah, but so for those who are wanting to just add one more thing the next few times they do it, then just add something so bring back the results to me in a way that I won't expect, that will be fun and interesting, so that I can see what's happening.
And Linda just had a headache release. So that's cool.
Oh, cool.
There's a Julie Sharp in the chat room. I used to know a Julie Sharp. Wonder if it's the same one. It is very powerful when said out loud. If you're in a position where you can say these affirmations that we do out loud, please do. Oh, is that your mum? Oh, okay. That's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Because we're adding that impact that, it's of sound. It's can't be underestimated. You really got to be careful what you say out loud.
That actually might be a good one for next week or the week after, is to somehow incorporate a certain tone, so that as we hear that tone throughout, we could either bring the tone with us, but we could also, if we hear the tone somewhere else, then we'll know right away that, there's our evidence that we're having results. And when we hear that tone, we'll have a feeling of X or Y or, something like that.
Okay, well, thank you once again, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. That was fun.
Barbara, always a pleasure with you.
Same here.
There was. Jim, I never want to come back after these meditations. Yeah, I know. That's why we do them right at the end of the show. I've learned my lesson on that one. Okay, thank you, Jeff, for joining us. Thank you, Jules, for calling in. And we'll see you all next week, and hopefully a few more of you can call in. So bye for now.
Bye, guys. See you next week.
If you really had to make a difference on a large scale with minimal resources, how would you go about it? Have you ever dared to dream of doing that which seems impossible? On a planet steeped with corruption and destruction, the question beckons, how do we change it? Media has a far-reaching impact on people and has been used to manipulate humanity into our current destructive patterns. In order to affect people into moving into constructive patterns of behavior, we need to construct a new paradigm of media. Conscious Consumer Network has been created with the explicit intention of giving the amazing truth-seeking, solutions-orientated, alternative media a place to fully realize their true potential with a cutting-edge, high-tech professional media platform. In turn, some of the greatest freedom-seeking hearts and souls of our time have realized the true potential of what has been created and have come together to provide their insight and inspiration on CCN. Conscious Consumer Network has become a unique, interactive information and educational network which provides a free-to-view, live-stream, ultra-high-definition channel to the world and features 25 live shows a week and growing with the addition of multiple language broadcasts. CCN has features comparable with mainstream media, such as being able to pause and rewind broadcasts whilst being live-streamed. Catch up on missed or previous broadcasts, now available from the CCN high-definition downloads. You can now purchase a high-definition download of your favorite CCN show from ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a monthly pledger. This can be done with a monthly pledge of €10, which will allow you unlimited access to CCN's high-definition downloads, which hosts a back catalogue of over 250 shows, which have been aired since the launch of CCN on the 1st of January 2015. In order to keep CCN on the air, public funding is needed. Please donate to CCN's Network Support Fund or become a monthly pledger. Help keep alternative media in the hands of the people. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.